to get started. I know we're going to be a little bit pressed for time in some of our meetings today, so I'd like to go ahead and get started and get our community services.
November 10th, community service meeting.
Vernon, the Head Start Center, for providing lunch for us today. I know last year we were here, but we certainly enjoyed it. This year the same thing. So I'm going to ask Mr. Bill John Baker to say the invocation for us later.
Family. Our gracious Heavenly Father, let us thank you for this day. We can come together and do your work for the Cherokee people. Let's keep in mind all of our boys overseas and girls, and keep them out of harm's way. And tomorrow, everybody remember Veterans Day and to honor their past service and their service to you, God. Let us all have traveling grace as we leave these meetings, and guide and direct us to do your work. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Roll call, please. Here.
Here.
Yes. Here.
I get you.
Ask the audience to kind of hold the conversation down a little bit. I appreciate it. I have the approval minutes for October 14th. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Human Services, Norman there, and it's up on the agenda. Norman? You're up.
Gosh, you guys are quick. I'm going to turn my phone off, okay?
Okay.
My report is it's probably the only thing I really have. I brought Jerry Snell to talk about the Lightning program. He has some handouts for you. So I will entertain questions about the handout or anything else while Jerry's getting some handouts to you.
Norman, I have one question real quick, and it's just an informational question.
Sure.
I know some people brought up the elder services last meeting and want to know about the trip, but where did they go this last time on the trip? Do you have any idea? Do you know?
Branson.
Right.
Oh, right.
Council Fishing Hall.
Can you tell me how many people got turned down? Because I know people get turned down. Well, I don't think turned down is the term I like. Okay. So I'll rephrase. We have slots, and there are folks, and I probably can't say this exactly correctly. Maybe Jerry can help me. But it's for the people that go to the nutrition sites, and they have people who aren't at the nutrition sites as alternates. So people that want to go can sign up as an alternate. If we have people from the nutrition sites that are the first in line and they don't go, then we can take the alternates from the community. I don't know if you heard me good.
I didn't hear a word you said.
Okay. But that is my understanding. Now, there are people who wanted to go that didn't get to go, but that's kind of how we do the levels. We're full. We have slots on dorm assistants, and we give priority to those people that were in school on dorm assistants the previous semesters. If they've kept their grades up, they're still eligible, all those, all the eligibility things. We give them priority, and then we add any to those slots that are open. Then we add the people who are in the queue that are eligible. And right now, we have about 25 who were not served that were eligible at the time that the applications closed. We have 25. How many spots do we have?
We have 135 on the program now. And that's about 20 more than what we had
Last year.
last year. Yes.
Last year.
What Plymouth Housing Authority had.
And right now, unless something changes, we won't take applications again until the next fall semester, assuming all these people that we have now will continue into the second semester.
Norma, bring me up to speed on, I think I remember 4 or 5, maybe 6 months ago, you said that the pellet stoves, that the pellet program was kind of, I don't want to say it was gone, but it was...
Well, you can kind of say that, except we still purchase pellets, as Jerry will tell you, on the light heat program. And if you will remember, about 3 years ago, we had a program called REACH, which was a pilot project to see if the pellet stoves were something that would be helpful to our elders, because it's easier to lift a few pellets instead of maybe a log or a piece of firewood. What we found out is that pellets and elders and disabled people who are especially living alone or don't have support does not work. We're now having people coming and asking to take those pellet stoves out because they can't. The sack of pellets is heavy, so you have to have someone who can get it into your house, open the sack so you can scoop it. Scooping is easy, but getting the pellets in the house is kind of like getting a lot of firewood in the house. You have to have someone to help you. You have to have someone to help you get it to your house. And there are some mechanics of the pellet stove that are very challenging to folks who maybe cannot see so well, maybe cannot read instructions, or like me, they're just resistant to some instructions. A lot of those things we didn't know until we tried it. So we are not going to be purchasing any more pellet stoves based on the report that Jerry and some of the other people did, and just firsthand knowledge that we've had.
That phone number that I gave you, will you also just check on the number of pellets that that individual has?
I will. But Jerry's going to tell you that we are purchasing pellets for light heat plant.
Thank you. Just check on that. Thank you very much.
Of course, go ahead. No, I was going to say the major thing about, in the past, we've had our REACH project where we had an employee that actually went out and delivered those pellets. And we no longer have that employee, so the way those clients will be treated, we'll make a heating assistance payment, just like they were a wood recipient or a propane user. We'll just make a payment to that family, and it'll be their responsibility to go and purchase pellets. We won't be delivering them this year.
Also repairs. That person that we had that was paid for the pilot project is no longer there, so we don't have anyone who can go out and hook up a stove or work on stove. Now, I will tell you that we had just a tad of money that we're contracting with someone right now to do some repairs for folks, but
Not for that project.
so that is still a challenge to us. There's no more general questions. I'm going to let Jerry talk about the light heat program because I know everyone's anxious to hear how things are going this year and going to go.
Well, I've given out all my handouts, but I think the major thing we want to point out is the fact that we did get a major increase in funding this year for our light heat program. I couldn't do the math, but it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 300% increase. Our grant went from approximately $600,000 to close to $2 million. So that has been a tremendous. I'm sorry.
Is that your public supplemental?
I wish I could say yes it was, but the federal government gave major increases to all the states and tribes throughout the nation. What this means is that we were able to kind of modify our light heat program this year. The first thing we did, we increased the eligibility standards from poverty level plus 10 to poverty level plus 50, meaning that we're going to be able to serve a lot more individuals than we have been in the past. The other thing we did, we increased the payment matrix, the payment amount, by 50% of what it was last year. I don't have one of those in front of me, but I think that moves our propane payment up to bill. The average propane payment, in other words, will be $483 this go around. If you look at each one of the metrics with the different energy sources, the top left-hand payment is generally what the average payment is going to be for that category. Natural gas, our average payment will be $354. Pellets, $338, and wood, $270. So those are pretty substantial increases over last year's payment matrix. The other thing we plan to do after we see how many clients that we'll get as a result of increasing the eligibility standard, we might be able to make a supplemental payment. Oh, in January. By January we should know. And of course that supplemental would priority will be given to the elderly and disabled. You'll see the first page of that handout has a list of how we're doing our LIHEAP program. I think we're just wrapping up the application process for the elderly and disabled. In December the 1st, I believe it is, we'll start taking applications on all of them. We'll take applications throughout the month of December. Of course, if we still have funds.
Judy, what if we have a new person that hasn't heard about the times, the deadlines and everything? Have them call you?
Oh, sure. We'll be taking applications throughout the month of December. If you have any elderly or disabled, we'll get to them next week or any time you have them available to get in contact with us. But we will continue to give priority to the elderly and disabled. We hope to make our first energy payment for that group the first week in December. So we're hoping that we'll get to do that by December. We did make that propane purchase from the money that the council appropriated back in August. Well, it was a good gamble, but like everything else, it was a gamble. And propane is actually cheaper today than it was when we purchased propane back in August. But you never know. If you look at trends, though, forever and ever, it's always cheaper in the summer than it is. And of course, we're still a long way from the dead of winter.
Yeah, a couple of questions. The first one is, do you have a list of all those folks that got mad last year because they were just barely over?
Well, we have all the clients that were denied, which
Okay.
were not that many. A lot of times clients, whenever they discover that they're ineligible, they'll refuse to make an application.
Yeah.
We hope to get some good PR out here in the next week.
I didn't know if you had it within your deal, because we talked about a couple of them last year that were just $13 over and this, that, and the other, and under this matrix, they'll be served.
You bet.
And I just didn't know if you had a way to go back and say, hey, the guidelines have changed, and you need to come to an application, because they're mad,
We can do that.
and otherwise they're not going to come back.
We can do that. If they completed an application, we deny them based on income.
I think these
We'll
fall
have that
together.
application.
And can we jump shift just a second, Mr. Chairman? How about our burial program? You were working on raising the payment and this, that, and the other. Where are we on that?
We drafted a new burial contract, and we have just recently given that contract to administration for their approval. It has been approved at that level, and it's going over to the Attorney General's office to let them dot all the i's and cross all the t's before we actually give that contract to the funeral homes. But we do have the draft. Well, hopefully it's no longer a draft, we're going to finalize now.
And what kind of payment are we going to?
We're looking at a payment of $3,000. $3,000 per contract. And that payment includes going back to the traditional wood-covered, cloth-covered box casket. That's for the truly indigent. We did include a clause in there that if the family members had, outside family members that had resources to come in and upgrade that service, that we would allow them to do that, and we would come in and make a payment up to $1,500. if they chose to come in and upgrade that service. Example, mother and father passes away, they meet the standards for an indigent burial, but the children want better. And they come in and we'll go ahead and make a payment of up to $1,500 toward any service that family chooses to purchase. That's basically something that we've not had. Oh my goodness, when we first started our contracted service back in '79, we had that clause in that initial contract. And we felt like since we were forced to kind of go back to the cloth covered up on top casket, that we still needed to have some options for those families that might have outside resources.
We'll do 3,000 with the total funeral.
Right.
Or if they want to upgrade, we'll give them a 50% or $1,500.
$1,500 for the purchase of whatever.
But the
service.
basic no longer is the metal casket.
Right. That's right.
Councilor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Back to the light heat. So is it your staff practice that if a person comes in to apply and they're over the guidelines, to go ahead and encourage them to fill out that application anyway? Or does staff say, well, you're over the guidelines? Do they encourage them either way?
I can't say that we encourage them either way or the other. Most of the time, it's the family that chooses not to make that application. But of course, we've always instructed the staff that, they must and should be willing to take an application on any family that comes in. But to say that, that they encourage a family that they know is over income to go ahead and make that application, I can't sit here and say that they do. I would hope they would certainly have the option to do so if the family chooses to.
Jerry, I got a question for you. With this increase of dollars, what was the rationale behind getting the increase? Was it just because of the cost of utilities? And do we think this may be carried over next year and the year after that, the year after that, or just do we know anything?
We don't know anything other than clear back in the summer, the Republican administration had promised EHHS that they would see significant increases in energy assistance, simply because I think it's a political issue at the national level. There's so much pressure from lobbyists to increase funding for those energy assistance programs that's where it's coming from. This is the way I read our grant award, that we should get this amount for 2 years. But now whether that actually happens or not, they just appropriated it for 1 year, but the language in it would indicate that they intend for that amount to be available for the next 2 years.
And a follow-up question. The increase that you're giving to the people already on LIHEAP, will that take up the dollars that you got for the increase this year? Do you anticipate carrying over money, or do you think you'll spend it all?
The maximum that you can carry over, period, is 10%.
10%.
So we could only carry over, close to $200,000. Our normal appropriation is around $600,000. If we increased our payment standard by 50%, and we expect that to cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $800,000. That's why I'm saying that after we see how many new clients we get as a result of increasing the eligibility standard, then in January we'll come in and make a supplemental payment to the elderly and disabled based on how many new clients we have. And if we still have adequate funds, we'll make a cooling assistance payment next summer for those clients. Or we can do one or the other, which whatever, we'll certainly take recommendations on that.
That's good to hear. Good on there.
Yeah, and Gary, I'd like to give you all the credit, and I don't care if it's Republicans or who it is, but this will make a big difference to our people.
Oh, it will.
I mean, because not only is it going to broaden the base of the people that are going to get it, that maybe could make it last year, those same people were not going to be able to make it this year. And the additional payments are more realistic into what the stuff's running. And last year, it was a little light.
We met at the state of Oklahoma last week. Their payment level stayed almost the same as it has been, their average propane payment's like $165. And their income eligibility, they went up to poverty plus 30%, which is the food stamp income level, where we went up to poverty plus 50. So we have higher income eligibility standards, and our payments are about 2/3 higher than that of the state. And certainly, if you know any elders or disabled that's getting state assistance, because see, if you're on SSI or state aid, they pre-certify you. You just automatically send you a notice that you're eligible for LIHEAP. And if the client doesn't respond, then they get a LIHEAP payment. And a lot of our tribal elders, we understand, are getting payments through the state, so they're getting shortchanged. They're getting shortchanged by using the state as their LIHEAP.
Any more questions for Jerry or Norm? Okay, thank you. Good report, Jerry. Norm? Charlotte Stokes, Community Services. Charlotte, you got anything you want to tell us, or any announcements, or any highlights?
Well, unless y'all have any questions, pretty much same as last report. You got the report from the office, and if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. I think Arlie had a question about the rural water number 8 rig. We're working with them, and at the present time, we're waiting for some information from them. So we can, we're working with them. So they're making some progress.
Okay, and what Charlie's alluding to is that we're going to work with the Briggs out here to help them secure some match funding for grants for applying for it. So I think that's a good deal. I think we need to help these people out as much as we can.
Yeah, we could.
Any questions for Charlie? Okay. Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you.
Housing services. David Hubbard.
You all have a report. Just going to follow up on a question from last month. And I don't remember who asked it, about if there would be an opportunity to get any more FEMA trailers. And as of right now, it doesn't look like there's going to be any more available. After we get our 12, if we get our 12, we've gotten 3, and that's been the extent so far. Still waiting on the other 9 to clear up, pass inspection, and so we can get those set.
And I pray that you get the other 9. But what are we going to do about the people that we've already destroyed their house and stuff we don't?
Well, that's a very good question. You know, probably something I need to sit down with staff and get a handle on. Because here it's been 5 or 6 months since they put the landing on it and stopped everything. And, in good faith, we thought we was going to have trailers, and then boom, we didn't. So let me follow up on that and see, because we got.
You got a couple of them that you closed their houses.
Oh, I think we got more than 2.
Okay, you got 2 in Cherokee then. But I mean, folks, you got to do something about that. I mean, even if you got to go in the car and go buy some old homes or something, you can't just leave it.
I'll follow up, and you know, all else fails, we do that, and then once we get the FEMA trailers, we find other families.
Yeah.
So I'll follow up, and I'll let you all. I'll make sure the council knows where we're at on that. The other item is Marvin gave me some things that he got today, and I want to give them to Shelley. It's just some different things that are coming up. The NAIC, National American Indian Housing Council Legal Symposium is in December, 1st of December, during National Finals Rodeo Week.
Curtis is going.
The NAIC Legislative Conference in February, that's an annual thing that they have out in D.C., and then the National American Indian Housing Council's annual convention is in May of next year. So I'm going to leave those to Shelley if any of you are interested.
Dave, I've got and you might help me out. Maybe I'm the one that. Sometimes I look at the report in here and I'm not sure I know what I'm reading. On number 3 it says 1,101 mutual help home buyers. Now, that's starting from when to when?
That's current.
I mean, current. Are you talking about current from what date?
Generally, it's at the end of this would be, this is November, October 31st.
So all these numbers in here are from October 31st,
Yes.
and so we'll start seeing.
Yeah, those are active units is what I'm reporting on right there on that number 3.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess what I'm asking you then, these numbers that you're giving us is from October 31st of this fiscal year.
Yes.
And then next month, we may see an increase on line number 3, though, could we?
You could see it, you probably see a decrease in that just because we have units paying off on a monthly basis. So that 1101, that will not go up, that goes down.
Okay, going down on number 3, it says 14 assumed mortgage participants with 1 in process. Now, is that from October 31st, or when is that from?
That is just current total. It's been probably from about a year ago. Those are total active units that are under management. That's kind of how we refer to them, under management.
But I think what I'm getting at is I'd like to see how many we're doing in each fiscal year.
Okay.
So I'd like to know how many we're going to be doing in FY09. That'll give us a better understanding of how many units we're doing instead of what we've done the last 3 years ago. Is there any way you could do that, break it down by fiscal year?
Kind of be a pretty good guess on that assumable. Those are just number 3 is just showing you how many are under management. We're not putting any new ones on, so it's not like we're going to have a bunch of new ones in this fiscal year. Now, the assumable we do. I closed that 1 in processing last week, so we've got 15 actives. I think we got maybe 1 in processing.
And drop down to number 5, we got 26 projects continuing in Adair County and 4 projects complete. Is this 26, when are we starting this from?
Those are active right at this point. What you're looking for is, what I'm hearing you say, is you're going to have something for the fiscal year.
Yeah, I'd like to know how many houses we do in FY08 or FY07 or FY09. This is what's confusing to me.
Let me,
how many houses did we do last year? I don't know.
we can do a different format.
If you would, that would help me some. I don't know if anybody else has the same questions on it. It'd be interesting to know what we're doing,
Okay.
or what we're going to be doing in FY09. Any more questions for Mr. Sullivan?
Thank you. Harley kind of brought my attention to it, David, on that rehab down there. It looks like down at the bottom of the page that there's a county south of Adair that's got as many projects down there continuing as the top 2 counties nearly total. It seems a little out of proportion. That's just a comment.
We must have a council member that really worked that
I
hard.
guess so. Yes, that would be my thought.
I think it just gives us other council members some incentive to go out and do what we can and getting projects out there. Mr. Snell?
Hey, did you ever get the applications you needed down at the LD Wood Properties?
We've got them. They're all surveyed now, and Mr. Hicks is following up with, I'm assuming he's having to do a bid to get those installed.
They will be installed.
Yeah, well, we got the surveys maybe 2 weeks ago, the final 3.
Good. Thank you.
Any more questions for Mr. Sullivan? Okay, thank you, David. Okay, moving on down to old business, I see none. We're going to move into new business, Ms. Watts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In front of you is a resolution to honor Sheriff Gary Fraser, who's a tribal citizen in Rogers County. He'll be retiring. And I would appreciate it if at this time the body would consider moving, or I'll make a motion to amend the agenda to add this resolution to consideration at the bottom of your business.
I have a motion seconded by Kara Calvin Watts and seconded by Don Garvin. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
All in favor say no. Motion
Thank
passes.
you.
You know, usually I say aye. I was in a meeting the other day and someone said yes. I thought, well, what in the world's going on? I guess I was thinking about that meeting. Anyway, moving on to new business, a resolution. I think, Norma, is this out of your department?
Yes, it is. This is a continuing funding. This is for DHHS to continue our family violence grant, $100,000, no match.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you. Next, I believe Marvin Jones is going to be presenting this Indian housing plan. Marvin, you want to come forward and then we'll just take this over real quick and see if we can get these on.
Can I do it from back here?
No. You can bring a chair real far.
Make them get up there.
Sitting there rocking on tomorrow.
Let me get here between two people that's going to help me.
Before Marvin gets started, I just want to say that the housing work group that we've had together has really been beneficial. It's been beneficial for me. I've learned a lot more than I did know when I came on the council, but the work group has worked really, really great, Marvin. We appreciate you coming to those meetings and explaining, you know, what is on our 07, 08, and 09 housing plan. So I'm going to go ahead and let you make a short presentation, and there may be some questions from the council members here that you can ask. So anyway, I just want to say thank you for coming to our work groups.
Well, that was the first thing I was going to say. I appreciate you setting up the meetings and the people participating, because it's really a complex plan, a lot of information in there that's hard to discuss in a short meeting. So I think that really helped us all. So I appreciate that. What I'd like to do is just go through maybe a minute or two of a summary, a real high summary of each plan as we get to them, and then see, if you have specific questions from there, or if you want me to go in more detail. So let me do that in a minute or two. I'll just go over the 2007 plan. The 2007 plan is essentially just a reallocation of money, activities contained within the plan itself. There's no new activities in there that are of a substantive nature. There's some Delaware changes in there, but essentially it's a reallocation of what's in there right now. This won't be the only revision to this plan. We should be revising it once the books close for fiscal year 08, and I anticipate that we'll have some additional money that will be unallocated here in maybe the next month or so. But the 2007 plan consists of a reallocation of activities we're already doing. So if you have specific questions on that.
Real quick, Marvin, just to explain where the reallocation of the 07 plan,
Okay.
where the reallocation went to.
Essentially, the reallocations are, if some of you will recall a few months ago, our 2008 Indian housing plan was cut back about $2.5 million, $3 million than what it would have otherwise been. And what we did was we shifted money up to cover that plan. Now, with this reallocation, we're essentially able to go back and pay for those things that were cut back during the 2008 plan. So again, primarily the funding will go to a couple of human services accounting units, and then housing management, which manages the rental assistance and the MAC program and things like that. That's the essential changes in there.
And I've been to meetings, but something's come to my attention of late, that some of our low-rent projects are in dire need of some upgrade. They've got windows that the locks won't work. They've got pavement that's deteriorating. They've got different things. Do we have in any of these plans adequate dollars to keep up our rental assistance so that it can at least be as nice as the open market?
In each plan, there's $1.1 million for modernization. I think David carried over about $300,000 from the '07 plan. So he has money both from the '07 plan and the '08 plan, and now the '09 plan. So he can respond to that if he wants.
Are you aware of what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
And,
you mentioned some windows.
yeah.
Yeah, we've got out, it's not on the project you're talking about that you called me about, but some window replacement on 2 different projects, and then a roof replacement that we're fixing to sign contracts on if we haven't already. Roof replacements here in Tahlequah, window replacement I think is in Westfield, and one in Pryor. But we've got some more on the drawing board as far as that type of thing. I don't know when here in Tahlequah. Maybe I can look and see if they've got that on the board.
I just, you know, as a former landlord, I couldn't be on the program and have windows that didn't work and locks that wouldn't lock and things like that. We ought to at least be up to the same standard as private landlords.
So we had the full allocation of the 2008 plan with the full 1.1 million plus from the '07 plan still available. So we'll be up to David to whatever the priorities are as to which units to replace, or which ones to repair.
We have a list. I mean, we've got a list together. I can look at it.
Because the more you defer, the more it costs later.
Do I hear a motion to approve the '07 independent housing plan?
Second.
Second. Motion is made and second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. That's done. Mark, we'll go on to the next one.
Okay, the 2008 Indian Housing Plan has some more significant changes, and I'll mention 2 of them. The money in this plan is essentially, we just now started expending the money, and that was some of the modernization money we just talked about. And so in this plan, we don't know if there's going to be excess money left, but what we did change in this Indian Housing Plan, there was $3 million that the Housing Authority has in Title VI receipts that haven't been expended. So we're adding that money to the Indian Housing Plan, and it can be used for any eligible affordable housing activities. We're going to need to take about $300,000 is the estimate, which we might get back, and we need to repay that to HUD because we've invested money longer than the 2-year period. So that's $300,000, which leaves $2.7 million. We're got 2 uses of that money. First use, $2.2 million, is I'll call it a new program, in that it's going to be money set aside to purchase, primarily to purchase foreclosed homes out on the market. The other $500,000 arose from the work group, and it consists of improvements in the low rent projects that Councilor Baker is speaking of, but it's specific to the roads within those low rent mutual help projects. Again, $500,000. There's a list of, I believe, 20 of those roads that are scheduled. This plan, the anticipated cost of those is approximately $1 million. We don't know if that's how firm that number is. It may be on the high end, but this plan allocates half of that money, $500,000, to go to the improvement of those roads and those particular projects. that's the major changes. Again, there's some minor changes from the Delaware wanting some changes in there that we included in there. But that's a major change in the 2008 Indian Housing Plan.
Any questions on our 08 housing plan? I hear a motion to approve the 08 Indian housing plan. Move to second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Okay, Mr. Jones, go ahead and do our 09.
Okay, 2009 Indian Housing Plan, the brand new plan. It would, the money from Congress hasn't even been allocated yet, so we don't know in the end how much money will be available. We're going based on the estimated amount from HUD. This plan total, including our expected program income, is for $30 million. This plan, if you go back and compare it to the 2008 plan, the 2007 plan, even back to the 2006 plan, is nearly identical to those plans. It's not anything of major difference between this plan and the last, I'd say for sure, the last 3 original plans that were presented and approved. It contains essentially the same activities with pretty much the same amount of money. One of the increases in the amount of money, because remember again, our original plan for 2008 was about $30 million, and it got cut back to $27.6 million. So this plan is back up to $30 million. So it will contain primarily increases in the self-help housing construction will be the primarily increase. The only difference, the major difference between it and the 2008 plan that we just revised. So this plan again is pretty much the same that it has been the last 2 or 3 years. If you had questions about it, I'll be happy to try to answer them for you.
Any questions on 09 housing plan? If not, I'd hear a motion to approve. Motion been made and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Marvin, just one other thing that you may speak to this just a little bit briefly about it is on our work group. You know, it's probably a good idea to keep the work group going because I understand they're going to be moving up the deadlines on the housing plans for probably next fiscal year. So you might give us just a little bit of an update on why that's happening and stuff like that.
Okay. That's a major reason. Unlike now, when we can do an Indian housing plan, as long as it goes in by July 1st, you know, during the fiscal year, it's okay. It appears like we're changing, HUD is changing the schedule. So I'll give you an example. We're approving the 2009 right now. Fiscal year 2010 starts October 1st of 2009 next year. HUD is saying that it appears like we're going to have that plan in 2 months before the beginning of the fiscal year, which in this particular case, it would be August the 1st of 2009. So it's almost like we probably do need to start on the next Indian housing plan before we even, you know, get this one, know how much money that we have in this one, the one that we just considered. We almost need to start working on the next plan. So that's a good reason to, you know, to start talking about it if we're going to make major changes or want to go through it in detail like we did with these last revisions. There's some other reasons that we may want to meet with the working group, such as that money we talked about in the roads. We can keep track of it and can ask questions about, on that kind of informal basis about how how we're progressing, and we'll need, like I mentioned, another revision to the 2007 plan, and probably at some point another revision to the 2008 plan. So it's really an ongoing process, and so I'll be happy to continue to meet in that format if that's what you want to do.
Okay, Marvin, I'd like to go ahead and probably set a work group meeting in January, and Shelley can get the times out on it. I think, anticipate it at the same time we always have. We'll try to work it in on the committee day. So let's go ahead and meet in January. If you got any questions, write them down, bring them to this work group meeting, so you can find out for 2010 or even actually look at changes in the 08 plan.
And as I mentioned, in the next 2 or 3 weeks or maybe a month, the books will close for fiscal year 08, and then I'll have a real good idea. We'll have a good idea of any other money that may be available that we talked about, possible uses of it. Of course, to supplement the road improvements and possibly some of those low rent improvements. We can discuss that more as we identify that money.
If you identify them, bring all the money you can to it again.
And it may be before then,
Okay, well,
and I'll let you know if it's before then and get it out to you.
Sure. And one other thing, Marvin, while you're there is, I think the last thing, I think we brought it up in our work group meeting, is I don't know if David was going to identify those roads that were actually county-owned or that we turned over to the county, but where are we on that? Have we looked at those, David, at all?
I haven't, no.
Have we probably should do that? See if they're county-owned, well, we need to go ahead and turn them over to the county.
Yeah, and you're specifically asking about Oaks, I believe.
Oaks and, well, any of them that we're looking at doing an overlay on. A lot of times those commissioners aren't too receptive about doing it unless they own the darn road. We might want to look and see if we have dedication, they're so well taken. Any more questions for Mark? Thank you, Mark. Okay, moving on down to the next one is Mrs. Watts. You want to tell us about the resolution?
You should have that in front of you, and unfortunately, I didn't find out about the retirement party being early on December 5th, which would preclude me from getting in on the other deadline. So, Madam Speaker was kind enough to suggest this committee so that it could be heard if it passed out of this committee, then also on tonight's agenda if the body so approves. And it's gracious enough to afford that opportunity for us to honor him at his December 5th retirement party. I would greatly appreciate it, and the resolution as presented as is in front of you, and I'd like to make a motion to approve, to acknowledge his career in Rogers County, and he's proud of it.
Moved and second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. It's just going to go to full council.
And I would ask that I will make a motion to amend the agenda for it to be considered on tonight's agenda too. And I appreciate everybody being so flexible. Thank you.
Thank you. Any announcements? Finish up on time. Matter of fact, we've got a few minutes